As a preliminary matter, this is Brian Sullivan, Chair of the Affordable Housing Trust. Permit me to confirm all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Tom Dixon.
Here.
Meg Browers.
Here.
Penny Dye.
Here.
And I'm here. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Christy Ferrantella.
Here.
Vicky Marsh.
Here.
Ellis Ramos.
Here.
Great. Anticipated speakers on the agenda, please respond in the affirmative. I apologize, but I don't have it all in front of me. So I'm going to pass this part for a moment because it seems like the mic's working. Good afternoon. This is an open meeting of the Affordable Housing Trust being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Affordable Housing Trust is convening by a video conference via the Zoom app as posted on the town's website to identify how the public may join. Please note the meeting is being recorded. All attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, be aware that other folks may be able to see you. Take care not to screen share your computer. Anything you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials provided to members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noticed. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda until we note otherwise. We'll turn to our first item on the agenda, but before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business to ensure accurate meeting minutes. The chair will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, we'll work our way through a line of members, inviting each to provide comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Please remember to mute your phone or your computer when you're not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any responses, please wait until the floor is yielded to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in conversation with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. For items with public comment after members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment to those members of the public that have joined the meeting via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their name and be acknowledged and speak to the chair. Finally, each vote will be taken by a roll call. With that, we'll move to the agenda. And I'll call the meeting to order. Look for an approval of the agenda. Are there any edits to the agenda today? Christy, I think your hand's up.
Yep, we just have one. Item number 8 is going to be moved to the next agenda.
Okay, great. Any other comments on the agenda, questions?
Motion to approve the agenda with the change that Christy, as stated by Christy.
Thank you, Tom. A second?
Second.
Second from Meg, vote by roll. Tom Dixon,
Aye.
Meg Browers,
Aye.
Penny Dye,
Aye.
and Brian Sullivan's an aye. Approval of minutes. We have March 21, January 30th, March 26, April 30th. We can vote these in as a group, is my understanding, and we can all vote regardless of attendance. Is there a motion on the agenda or on the approval of the minutes?
I move approval of the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tom. Vote by roll. Tom Dixon,
Aye.
Meg Browers,
Aye.
Penny Dye,
Aye.
and Brian Sullivan's an aye. Item number 4, public comment. I'll open the floor for public comment. Any members of the public have anything to share? Are there any members?
Yes, I do.
Okay, great. Mary, are you able to come off of?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. I just have a comment, and I guess there's a question in there. If the affordable housing.
Mary, I'm just going to identify you for the minutes. This is Mary Mack speaking.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't say my name. Sorry about that.
No problem.
All right. Well, has the trust ever considered changing your name, like from the Nantucket Affordable Housing Trust to maybe Nantucket Affordable and Attainable Housing Trust? Just whatever, go through those channels, whatever they might be, if it's possible. I just think it would be more descriptive and reflective of the trust's entire housing goals for Nantucket. I don't know, that's just my comment and suggestion.
Great. Thank you, Mary. I don't believe it's been contemplated to date, but it's an excellent suggestion.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Mr. Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. I just wanted to mention for the public, I think as folks know, a great deal of effort has gone on for a number of years by a number of folks from Nantucket to get a housing bank or a transfer fee to benefit housing. Mr. Chair, you have been super active in this effort, which I greatly appreciate, as well as many others on this board. And I just wanted to update folks that the legislation, the Affordable Homes Act, which the governor introduced last fall and which the transfer fee is a part of, is at a critical juncture. It will be taken up by the House and the Senate in the next couple weeks. And it is increasingly looking like, because of very strong Massachusetts Association of Realtor opposition and building, off-island builder opposition, that this is likely not going to be something that will be available to the whole state. However, if we try to read the tea leaves, and we're reading them accurately in some of the statements that the Speaker of the House has made in recent weeks, it may be that there is an avenue for this tool to be available to places like Nantucket through another portion of the bill, which is called the Seasonal Communities Designation. So it is very important these next 10 days for folks who are so inclined to let their support of the transfer fee within a seasonal communities designation be known to the Speaker, as well as members of our Cape and Islands delegation. And I'm sure that Christy and Ellis are going to be, posting on the Trust website the addresses and so forth, emails of how to reach those folks. But stories from Nantucket, personal stories, expressions of the incredibly strong support and consistent support we've had for this measure, and how this could really be the difference in addressing that attainable market, actually, that Mary just mentioned, are all key things to relay to Speaker Mariano and our Cape and Islands delegation. So anything that anyone would like to send in support these next 10 days really could make a difference. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Tucker. I will share that more than 63 members of the local real estate community have signed on to a letter to send to the Speaker and Senate President, which is exciting.
Barry.
Christy?
Thank you.
Thank you, Tucker. I just wanted to make sure the public was aware that there's currently 2 open lotteries for affordable housing. The first is through Housing Nantucket at their Wiggles Way development, and this is for rental opportunities. There's 22 units altogether. 6 of them are affordable and 16 are workforce. You can find out more information on it if you qualify by going to Housing Nantucket's website. The second opportunity is through Habitat for Humanity, and they're building 4 homes for ownership on Waite Drive. And you can find out more information about their lottery on their website, and they will be hosting an in-person informational meeting at the Athenaeum on June 10th at 6:30. So a lot of options for affordable housing in our community that I wanted to make sure people were aware of.
That's exciting. Any more public comment today? Seeing no actions, I'll close public comment and move to the announcement on the 2024 Dr. Dickler Housing Advocacy Award winner. Christy?
Thank you, Brian. So I just wanted to let everybody know that the Affordable Housing Trust has created this annual Citizens Award as a tribute to the late Dr. Howard Dickler. And at town meeting, we announced that this year's winner was Mr. Richard Hussey. And Richard Hussey has been on the board of Habitat for Humanity for over 10 years and has had a significant impact on Habitat's ability to construct homes. He's served as their construction committee chair And he's really worked hard to develop relationships with subcontractors in the town to accelerate their construction of home ownership opportunities. And Habitat has gone from building one home over several years to building 1 to 3 homes per year. So I just wanted to congratulate Dr. Richard Hussey on the Dr. Dickler Award, and he will have the opportunity to direct a small honorarium to the housing nonprofit of his choice.
So thank you, Christy. Today we have a request for an amendment to a trust fund mortgage on 12 Sleepy Hollow at 12 Sleepy Hollow / 74 Somerset Road. Oh, sorry, Tom.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I just want to quickly comment on Rich Hussey and the award. Very proud to have voted for him for this award. I was on the board of Habitat from 2014 to 2020. He sort of did my intake there and was very kind the whole time. And he has put thousands of hours into those Habitat houses and never complains and helps get volunteers and make sure the homeowners feel welcome and all kinds of stuff. I just think he is one of the best in the community, in the affordable housing community, and is an exemplar of just that Nantucket give back spirit. So kudos to Rich, a really great guy and well deserving this award.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom. And with that, I'll now move on to item 6, amendment on the mortgage. Vicky, do you want to do this, or Christy?
I can defer to Christy if she'd like to present it.
Yep,
Great.
I'm happy to. So this came as a request. There's currently a closing cost assistance mortgage on the home, and the owner is changing from a condo ownership to a fee simple, and they need to amend the mortgage for that.
Great. Vicky, on that, is there anything that you want to share with the trust? Are we just legallying this, or?
Yes, so I would just ask that you vote to approve of the amendment that's going to be made to the mortgage, and I will have the appropriate documentation to you.
Great, thank you. Any questions, comments, or motions from members of the board?
Motion to approve the amendment as
Great.
Vicky stated.
Go ahead. Thank you,
I
Meg.
just-
Penny?
I'd like to make a friendly amendment and to authorize the chair and or vice chair to sign on behalf of the trust.
Work for you, Meg? Friendly amendment? Great. Is there a second? Thank you, Tom. By roll call, Tom Dixon,
Aye.
Meg Browers,
Aye.
Penny Dye,
Aye.
and Brian Sullivan's and I. Item 7, discharge of sellers closing cost assistance at 10 Field Ave. Christy, I'll come back to you and then we'll look to Vicky.
Of course. So the sellers of a Covenant home at 10 Field Ave have sold to a new Covenant buyer, and they're looking for the approval to just discharge of their closing cost assistance mortgage on the property. And our office has already received the check from the discharge, and so we're just asking for approval for the chair or vice chair to sign off on this.
Okay, great. It's nice to see that, like, this working in the sense that the funds are recirculating back through the program, and I'm appreciative of the way that this sets up and the dollars get to be used again to benefit the community. Vicky, did you want to elaborate at all?
No, I think it really speaks for itself. So yes, I would ask that you would vote to approve the execution of the discharge of mortgage be provided.
Great. Is there a motion or comment from a board member?
I probably shouldn't make it because we hold the restriction.
Oh, at the Housing Authority. Okay. Great. Is there, Tom or Meg can look to one of you to make a motion to approve the discharge of this mortgage and to be signed by either the chair or vice chair?
Can I
So-
say, I'd like to make a motion per the language you just used?
Yes.
Second.
Thank you. Right. Roll call, Tom Dixon,
Aye.
Meg Browers,
Aye.
Penny Dye,
Aye.
Brian Sullivan's and I. Item 8, we postponed to a future meeting. Item 9, strategic Select Board Strategic Plan Housing Focus Area Update. Christy.
Thank you. So this I just wanted to bring to the trust. As many of you are aware, the select board has had a strategic plan in place since 2018 to guide the town operations and goals. The plan has 5 focus areas focused on housing, transportation, environmental leadership, efficient town operations, and quality of life. As the housing director, I've been designated to be the town representative for the housing focus area. And we're really working over the next year to give updates to the select board on how their goals have been operationalized and really go into the day-to-day work of the town employees. So I just wanted to give a quick update because many of the housing goals relate to the Affordable Housing Trust. And just to let you know, I'll be giving an update to the select board at their July 21st meeting. And then we'll be part of the annual review of the select board strategic goals. So we'll continue to kind of have this as a trust meeting agenda in the future as we get close to that annual meeting in October. So I just want to go over 5 of the goals around housing. The first 2 are really related to municipal housing. And so those aren't directly related to the Affordable Housing Trust, but they're to prioritize the housing needs of town and school employees and evaluate the potential for coordinated housing efforts for public employees across municipal operations. For that, there is an internal employee housing focus group that's working on the development of municipal housing. The 3rd, 4th, and 5th goals are all pretty much assigned to the Affordable Housing Trust. And so number 3 is to explore incentives to encourage year-round rentals. And these are things that we're looking at through the year-round deed restriction program, which would provide homeownership and rental opportunity. We're looking at the good landlord tax exemption, which needs to go to a town meeting. And we've been in conversations with the Lease to Locals program about their request for participation from the Affordable Housing Trust. The next goal is to achieve and maintain safe harbor under Chapter 40B and to maintain local control over affordable and attainable housing initiatives. We are one of the only towns in the Commonwealth that have maintained safe harbor continuously since 2019 and has really been a success for the town and the trust that we've been able to put different projects in place that has maintained that safe harbor status. Our current status of safe harbor does expire on December 11th of this year, and the trust has been working with several partners to make sure that we stay in safe harbor past this date. We've discussed Tacoma Green, which is a 64-unit development of rental properties over at 6 Fairgrounds, and they're on track to pull building permits by the end of this year, which would provide 2 years of safe harbor. In our last meeting, we did approve a grant to Richmond for an acceleration and buy down of the Gooseberry Place rental. So both of these are options for maintaining safe harbor. And lastly, goal number 5 is through a variety of approaches to promote affordable and attainable home ownership opportunities for the year-round community, which will meet housing needs at all income levels and lessen the burdens of government. Again, we're working on the year-round deed restriction pilot program, which may offer down payment assistance. We have also worked on we did 1 grant to Habitat for Humanity for their homes on Waite Drive. They'll be developing 6 homes for home ownership. And we did a short-term loan to Richmond for the development of 7 homes for home ownership in the Sandpiper Place 2. So all of these are working towards the goal of providing home ownership opportunities. We'll also be working on an RFP to dispose of the land at 8 West Street to be developed for home ownership. So those are things that are in the works. So I just wanted to give a quick update and recap those goals, keep them fresh in everybody's mind as we talk about different programs, and just want to see if there's any questions or comments from the trust.
Hi, Penny.
Penny Dye, I just want to remind us in our planning that we have we have the legal right to sell the White Street property to fund projects, other projects. That's it, just a reminder. Thank you.
Thanks, Penny. I'll elaborate on that, we could buy or sell any of our potentials as needed to raise capital. Meg, then Tom.
I think Tom was first.
Your hand, go ahead.
Okay.
He graciously offered you the floor.
All right, Tom, thanks. So, I just wanted to ask a question in regards to Penny's comment about White Street and other properties that we have currently that we have not released an RFP on. How would the trust go about assessing currently owned properties and the feasibility and the financial ability for someone to create bid on an RFP, respond to an RFP, and whether or not those properties should be sold? And I guess through you, Brian, maybe to Christy, I'm just looking for guidance as a trust member on how those conversations could be had so that we could assess all of our properties and not maybe just one.
Christy, to you from Meg.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we haven't really explored, in depth. We are working on the RFPs for 12 Bartlett, 135, 137 Orange Street, and 7 Amelia at the moment, and 16 Vesper, sorry. All 4 of those have been worked on with the finance department. The goal for those are to be rental opportunities to contribute to the SHI list and maintain safe harbor. So just kind of initial comments and thoughts on that is that selling those might lead to not maintaining safe harbor in the future, but we can certainly add it as an agenda item in the future if that's something that trust members would want to explore.
Yeah, maybe like a workshop or like a committee meeting, which I understand would have to be posted, obviously, but where we could just specifically focus on that in particular would be helpful for me to understand where we stand with all of our properties and why some might be more beneficial to consider selling off and how that would work. Because having brought up the White Street property, I always thought that that was a great opportunity for us to try like a little pocket subdivision. And I know that we haven't really talked about it recently, and I don't think there's an RFP, and we haven't talked about an RFP in a trust meeting recently. So rather than just focus on one, maybe it'd be nice to get a holistic view of where we stand. And then I did have another comment, but it's gone. So I'm done. Thank you.
Thanks, Meg. Tom, to you, and then to Penny to follow up.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to defer to Penny because I think she's on this topic and I think I'm on something else.
Yeah.
Okay, Penny.
Thank you, Penny Dye. Just very, very quickly, I want to be clear, I'm not suggesting that we dispose of any of these properties. I just was reminding people of the terms of the bargain sale, where it was specifically alliterated that should we feel the need to serve the needs of the trust and the community, we would be able to sell that. It was not restricted. That was the point of my comment. Thank you.
Got it. Thank you, Penny. Tom?
Yeah, I just wanted to briefly comment on Christie's laying out the housing part of our strategic plan, which is obviously the town's guiding document for the select board's strategic plan and basically all the operations of the town. And just thinking back to Christie's transition from Tucker and getting up and running and making sure the transition was smooth. And now with these new updates to the trust, obviously, and to the select board, that I think it's been really smooth with a lot going on and a lot of moving parts, and the landscape around the universe, the ecosystem, what have you, around housing in the Commonwealth, the entire Commonwealth changing, that things have gone really smoothly. So I just wanted to, I think it's just worth looking back for a second and acknowledging that Tucker had a lot on his plate and a lot to put on Christie's plate, and it's went really well.
I wholeheartedly agree. Meg, is that a new hand? New hand?
Yeah.
Okay.
I remembered my second comment. I just wanted to note to the select board's strategic plan, housing focus area, the parts where you're talking about developing the employee housing focus group. I think it might be really helpful to have someone from Nantucket Education Trust on that, other than Beth, who is just obviously so swamped all the time and does the best she can. And I know she's awesome about advocating for housing for school employees, but I think the trust is deep in work right now to explore possibilities for building out more units. And I feel like they would be a really helpful and handy and excited part of the conversation. So for your notes, Christy.
Thank you.
Thanks, Meg. Christy, any more on your update? Seeing none, seeing none, I'll look for an approval and execution of the purchase and sale agreement at 12 Honeysuckle Drive. So Vicky, I'd maybe come to you first to describe kind of the document.
So, so we have a purchase and sale agreement that's been agreed upon between NHA Properties and the trust. That agreement is for $1.7 million, and it is supposed to have an affordable housing restriction element to this project property. And in speaking with the Sellers Council, they are not prepared yet to convey this property with the affordable housing restriction attached to it. And they also were not aware that there was a year-round housing occupancy restriction with it. So this closing right now, I mean, I received a copy of a proposed deed, but it has no restriction in it. Their thoughts were that the restriction would be recorded after the trust purchased the property, which I'm not sure is what you had considered. So I'm looking for your input as to the terms of this arrangement with NHA Properties with respect to the affordable housing restriction. I did look at they just got me a settlement statement. There are no final numbers yet on this, so I don't have a final settlement statement yet to offer to you either. And they are not sure right now that they'll have a certificate of occupancy ready by next Tuesday. I did prepare certain standard form documents for them to sign as well, which are customary in residential closings. So the transaction could be closed fairly quickly, but right now we do not have a final affordable housing restriction to review. The restriction that was sent is really not applicable to this transaction. It's really a document that is used for mass housing purposes and for a town holding the restriction. So, so there are a few things that need to be done in order for this transaction to be ready to close next Tuesday.
Thank you, Vicky. I'm going to come to Penny. I think she has a comment or question for you, maybe.
That's exactly right. You're reading my mind. So through you, Mr. Chair, Penny Dye, through you, Mr. Chair, I think to Anne, why is there not an affordable housing restriction ready to go on this? Is my question. I'm going to follow it up with a comment, which is the timely closing of this is crucial to continued progress at Wiggles Way.
Thank you, Penny. Anne, are you available to answer that question?
Yes.
Thank you.
Puspa, sure. Housing, what am I again? The Executive Director of Housing Nantucket. Yeah, there's no deed restriction recorded on this property because it was developed. It's a market rate property essentially. So there's no deed restriction on it right now. This is number 12 Honeysuckle. So we also, those of you who have been following this project know that there's 8 and 10 Honeysuckle also. Those we're going to be selling to AMI buyers. So we have a certain deed restriction that needs to get recorded where the town is the holder. So Vicky referred to that. But in this case, for 12 Honeysuckle, it's not appropriate because it's not going to be held by an AMI buyer. It's going to be held by the town of Nantucket. So my understanding is that the town is going to choose what they will to do with the property. There's no need, for them. I don't really understand, your business, what you want to do with it, but that's not what we're selling you. We're not selling a restricted property. We're just selling you basically an open market property, and the price reflects that. So that's why there's no affordable deed restriction prepared to go along with this property.
Thank you, Ann. Vicky, I will sort of echo that. As my understanding is that we're going to put the affordability restriction on after the fact.
Okay,
At an AMI level, but that it is being purchased as an open rate unit that we
Okay.
will then subsidize the restriction after, depending on what level of AMI this group chooses to buy it down to effectively.
okay.
Penny, and then I'll come back to you, Ann. Penny, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
Thank you, sorry, just to follow up then. So we can write our own restriction, is what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying.
I just don't want to see this held up because of some confusion about who's writing the restriction. Thank you.
I'll come back to you, Ann, and then to Vicky.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ann.
And then just to answer the question about the certificates of occupancy. So all the final sign-offs have been completed. And my understanding is that at this point, it's in the hands of the plus. So we have been assured by our builder that it's possible that the C of Os would be available to us before May 24th. But that's kind of like we're waiting. And so in that respect, we don't have them in hand right now, but everything's been completed.
Thank you, Ann. I'm going to come to Vicky and then to you, Penny.
So I appreciate the clarification because there seems to have been some confusion between the attorney, the seller's attorney and, myself. And so, I mean, it can be put on after the fact. If the understanding is that we're purchasing a market rate property and not an affordable property right now, then certainly that is not an issue. And so we can impose a restriction if and when we decide to sell this property to an affordable buyer that would fall within the trust parameters. So that's not an issue. There is some documentation that still needs to be completed with this closing, not anything that's really insurmountable given the fact that today is Tuesday. And if we want to try to close by next Tuesday, I'm certainly able to work with Sellers Council to get this ready. Again, I would just need final closing numbers though as soon as possible, because the finance director for the town of Nantucket is certainly going to be looking for what that number is going to be in order to be able to deliver funds once we're on record. I have ordered a certification for this property as well. So title would be able to just be run down from the date of the certification, which will make it easy, especially given the fact that the Richmond title is very confusing and difficult to review. So I think all in all, I think, this could close by Tuesday if that's the date that the seller is aiming for, but we need a few things to fall into place. We need that occupancy permit. The occupancy permit. We also need a builder's warranty. I haven't seen a copy of that yet either. And then the final numbers are really key.
Okay, great. Thank you, Vicky. Penny?
Yeah, my question through you, Mr. Chair, to Christy is, are the funds teed up and ready to go by next Tuesday, remembering that Monday is a holiday?
Yes.
Thank you.
I've been working with the finance director to have everything prepared.
Thank you.
And to you, Ann?
Thank you. So with regards to the numbers that Vicky's referring to, is that something on our end that you're waiting for, or who would provide those, and what exactly are you missing?
So the last time I checked, we were missing, there's a common charge, I believe, because this is part of a homeowners association. So I'm looking for what the trust is going to have to pay at the closing for our contribution to that. And there also is supposed to be a certificate similar to a condominium, that a 60 certificate, which says that there are no unpaid common charges due. There should be a certificate indicating there are no outstanding common charges due on this lot. And that normally comes from, I'm not sure whether it's coming from the trust, the homeowners association trust, or the developer, the original developer. I'm not sure who's in charge of this homeowners association trust.
It's the Richmond company.
It's Richmond.
Mhm.
So it should most likely be signed by them. So you may want to follow up, or have Rick or Brian follow up as to that as well, because we need to be able to record that. So otherwise, we're not in bad shape. We just need these few last details to be ready. And I certainly will work with them to make sure that if we can get this to close on Tuesday.
Thank you.
So my expectation is, Vicky, that we're gonna need a motion on execution of documents for Tuesday. Could you help lead us through that motion based
Sure.
on the subject to paperwork you need?
Sure. So I would ask that you vote to approve and execute the closing documents that have been presented thus far, with subject to town council's approval of final deed, acceptance of deed, and receipt of a certificate of occupancy and final settlement numbers. I think that covers
Great.
it.
Thank you, Vicky. Is there any members that want to make that motion?
So move, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Tom. Is there a second?
Second.
Vote by roll call. Tom Dixon,
Aye.
Meg Bowers,
Aye.
Penny Dye,
Aye.
and Brian Sullivan is an aye. Great. Thank you all.
Thank you, Wynn, for the clarification.
Item 11, vote and acceptance of year-round housing occupancy restriction, affordable housing restriction up to 240 for, sorry, I can't see the full page. Is it 12 Honeysuckle Drive?
8 and 10.
Yes.
Oh, excuse
so
me,
we
8 and 10. Oh,
So we have, sorry to interrupt, we have number 11 is for 12 Honeysuckle, but because that's not ready, I think we need to wait and move that to a future agenda item.
future meeting, okay.
And then the next number 12 is for 8 and 10.
Got it. So let's leave 11 for a future date, and 12 we'll take up now on the year-round occupancy restriction and 240% AMI for 810 Honeysuckle Drive. So with that, Christy, do you want to give a brief explanation, and then we'll come to Vicky on the document? Honey, I need to have this meeting. Can you?
So we voted at the last trust meeting to approve the purchase of these restrictions on the other 2 units on Honeysuckle that Housing Nantucket is developing at 8 and 10 Honeysuckle. So this request would be to accept those deed restrictions, and I'll pass it over to Vicky.
So in conjunction with the other review of the restriction for 12 Honeysuckle, Sellers Council have provided me with their form rider that is going to be attached to the deeds for these 2 buyers who are going to be purchasing 8 and 10 Honeysuckle. These riders were not filled in, and they also were applicable to a municipality holding the restriction and not the trust. I had a discussion yesterday with Attorney Beaudet about the trust could hold this restriction because it's a governmental body, and it could hold it under General Laws, Chapter 184, Section 26, and not under 184, Section 27, because it is a governmental body or an agency of the town. But the benefit of that is that it is not subject to just a 30-year restriction. It can be held perpetually because it is a benefit for for a public purpose. So therefore, this restriction really needs to be, this rider restriction needs to be revised. I mean, it really needs to be probably redrafted to make it applicable to the restriction that the trust would hold. So I did talk to Rick about this yesterday. And so he was going to look into it and try to get me back a draft. So right now we don't
Okay.
have one. And oh,
we don't have one to take action on, so we're
Right.
gonna have to carry it. Okay.
right. And one other comment that I had, and I'm not sure of this, is and you can advise me how you expect to proceed. But my understanding is this is supposed to be a purchase for $45,000 per property for each restriction. And I'm not sure whether you were intending to pay for these restrictions when they actually are sold to these buyers and purchased, or whether you intended to, when you intended to fund these, I guess is the question.
Thank you, Vicky. Penny?
Yeah, again, these the payment for these restrictions was not tied to the sales. The funds from these restrictions will be used to help fund the finishing over at 31 Fairgrounds.
And
So they just didn't necessarily need to wait until the closing, Vicky,
Correct.
but they need to happen prior to the closing.
Correct.
okay. And so
So they could be simultaneous, but it needs to happen before the new owner's recorded.
So I think what we will need to just cover the trust is an agreement with
Yep.
NHA properties to agree to grant this restriction, and we in turn we would agree to pay the $90,000, I guess, once that agreement is signed. Is that what you're looking for?
That's what I thought we were doing. Yeah.
Well, I thought we might be further along on the restriction itself, but I appreciate you recognize the error in the way the restriction was delivered. So I think to probably move this as quickly as possible, an agreement is what we need to move it forward
Okay.
with the restriction forthcoming to be done at a future meeting. And when would you expect those closings to happen to for the purchasers to make sure that we get this restriction filed prior to? Or simultaneously, or
And
because we may need to have a meeting if it's before our next regularly scheduled meeting. I just want to make sure.
No, so we did our lottery. Right now, we're verifying the winners of the lottery who are going to be offered the opportunity to purchase. So they still need to go through the financing process. We were given them
Okay.
45 days. So
Okay.
our target is July 15th closing. So,
Okay.
you know, the way that the restrictions written, like Vicky said, the language says the town of Nantucket. So, I mean, in my mind, it just needs to be changed. The entity who's holding the restriction just needs to be changed to the trust. But the restriction itself is very extensive about like how the transfers happen and who the occupancy. So there's no issues there. That was the bulk of it. Yeah. So I think it's just a name change.
Well,
We'll defer to Vicky on kind of how it's held in perpetuity and the name of change, but we'll get there as long as we know we have until mid-July. Yeah.
right. What I would like to be able to do, though, is to get this agreement to you. And so how quickly would everyone be able to sign this agreement, I guess? I mean, I could get it to you by next week, if that helps you.
Do you need all members of the trust or just
No,
me authorized by the?
You could be authorized by the board, but I do need, I would need it signed, and then obviously we would need NHA to sign off on it as well. So I don't know, I can't speak for if they have to have a meeting or how they would, what they need to do to sign it.
Ann?
we voted on this already at one of our regular board meetings, so we don't need a meeting. And my treasurer and chair, the ones who need to sign this, are both on island, so they're
Okay.
available.
Okay.
Me too.
So if I were to get you an agreement, what's today? Today's Tuesday. I
Tuesday.
might actually be able to get you something. Brian, are you around Friday even? I'm really trying to get this done for everybody. So it's not that complicated an agreement, I don't think. So how about if I try to get you something by Friday that you could sign off on, and then we can get it over to Ian as well. Hopefully their president treasurer will be around as well. And we
Great.
can get this done by the beginning of next week, hopefully. So Christy, money-wise, do we have money to do this?
Yes, and I talked with Brian Turbot about that as well.
Okay, all right. So
Great. Penny?
Were through you, Mr. Chair, to Christie, weren't the funds on the warrant or not that were approved, or was that the other 92,000?
So they've been being held until an agreement was signed. So we just need to have this authorized.
Thank you.
Great. So I'm looking for a motion to have the chair or vice chair sign an agreement between the Affordable Housing Trust and NHA Properties for the restriction of affordability to be placed on 8 and 10 Honeysuckle Drive. Vicky?
So I want to change that to say that you first of all approve of the an agreement between the trust and NHA Properties for their grant of a restriction in exchange for the payment of $90,000 for the restrictions to be and then to authorize you to sign on behalf of the trust.
Is there a member to make that motion?
I'll make a
Tom?
motion. I'll make.
Thank you, Penny. Is there a second?
Second,
Vote by roll call. Tom Dixon,
Aye.
Penny Dye,
Aye.
Meg Browers,
aye.
and Brian Sullivan's an aye. Okay, thank you for leading us through that, Vicky, and thanks for being available for those questions. Looks like we are on item 13, other business. The next scheduled meeting is June 4th at 12:30. Christy?
So we have this scheduled as Tuesday, June 4th. Ellis and I had been invited to go to the Vineyard for a listening session with the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. So we had sent an email to the trust asking everyone to move it to the 6th, but that meeting has now changed times. And so Ellis and I are now available on the 4th. So we just wanted to discuss if everybody moved the date, we can keep it the 6th, or if you're available the 4th, we can keep it. So just kind of wanted to bring it to you as to what the preference was of either Tuesday or Thursday of that week.
My personal preference is the Tuesday, but I will work my way around. Penny,
Yes.
you're shaking affirmatively Tuesday. Tom, Sam,
Yep.
Meg, that work for you?
I can do either.
Okay, great. Vicky?
I'm away on the
Okay.
4th.
Okay.
Do we need to vote on that?
All right, so we'll just have to crank through everything the Friday before you go away.
Perfect. So we'll keep it as the 4th and get everybody a calendar invite for that.
Great. Thank you, Christy. Any other business? Seeing none, any board comments?
I just
Penny?
have one, which I just want to remind people to vote today.
Yes. Meg?
Could I ask that a placeholder be put for lease to locals on our next agenda?
Sure, but what is it that you want to put on for the agenda?
Discussion about the program, where it's headed, how it's being executed, where it stands with Housing Nantucket, how we might be a part of the conversation.
Okay. Penny?
Yeah, I would like to add to that answers to the questions that we asked when they met with us in, was it March?
Okay.
Thank you.
Christy?
Yes, I've been in communications with them and originally had scheduled for today, the 21st, but they weren't quite ready. So they'll be on our the June 4th meeting.
Great. Meg?
Can I just add a follow-up comment that I remember we talked about concern about income eligibility requirements and lottery and all that jazz. And so if there were answers to those questions in particular, I think that would be really helpful for us as a trust to be able to understand how we can play a role in it.
Okay. Any other board comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll close that, and we will look for a motion to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or real value of property where an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating of the position, to adjourn this meeting, not to return, excuse me, to leave this meeting for executive session, not to return to open session. Is there a motion?
I move to adjourn to executive session to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property where an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body, not to return to open session.
Thank you, Meg. Second, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Tom, by roll call, Meg Browers,
Aye.
Penny Dye,
Hi.
Tom Dixon,
Aye.
and Brian Sullivan's an aye. Thank you.
Thank you.